Welcome to the Unleash Greatness podcast with your host, Jonathan Mitchell. The best in personal, emotional, spiritual, and business development.
Welcome all, welcome one, welcome whoever's listening. Thank you so much for listening once again. This is Unleash Greatness. I am Jonathan Mitchell, the talking extraordinaire for this lovely podcast. Thank you so much for listening in again. So today is MBA Musings Day, where I get to go over this last week in the MBA program, kind of define of what we're going through and what I'm learning. All sorts of subjects. This is going to be a fun one, talking a little bit more about leadership. This also, by the way, this episode is sponsored by naturalmedicinemamas.com. Any help, advice, or products around natural or alternative medicine. Amazing stuff, men, women, and children. Check it out. This is Unleash Greatness. You can find more with myself and other people at unleashg.com for coaching, for podcasts, for whatever's there to help inspire you, make your day better, and unleash your greatness. So today, MBA Musings, let's get going. Thank you so much again for joining in with us. You are awesome. All right. So again, if you're new to this, I hope if you're listening in, you're probably like, oh, good grief, he's saying this again. But I never know if someone's listening to this for the first time or not. So if you're new to this, we have 5 episodes a week. Monday are interviews. Today, Tuesday, is MBA Musings. Tomorrow is a book review. On Thursday is story time. I find interesting stories or articles from online or from friends. And lastly is Spiel Day, where I just got to kind of riff and wing it and just talk about whatever comes to mind. Today is on MBA Musings. So I get to focus on what we learned this last class. We're actually coming to the end of one class that spanned over 2 semesters, which is our leadership and group dynamics class. And the other class, of course, is again the statistics class. We have finals in both of them this next week, which a little nervous about, but I'll be studying here afterwards. I use this time to kind of let my brain not have to focus for a second and just let myself talk about the experience, which is fun. So this week in the leadership and group dynamics class, we talked about personal leadership principles. We actually talked about a lot of different things like power and power influence again, and kind of went over this last semester of everything we've learned, which is we've gone over a lot of content. I would spout it off all of it to you, but it might overwhelm you. So what I'm going to focus on today is just the personal leadership principles and what that means. So the professor challenged us to write down, she went over like some examples of personal leadership principles of her own and some other people, and she asked us to share ours and to think about what we would want to have in our personal leadership. So everyone had tons of different examples. Some people had cool quotes they had. Some people had thoughts or stories from when they were kids or something that kind of inspired them. The whole purpose is kind of having something like a paper, article, something that is, I don't want to say mission statement, but it's more like principles, obviously, principles or thoughts or habits or the things that are important to you. So if and when you are a leader, that you can look to these as the guiding star of your leadership journey. And it was interesting to listen to bunches of different people's perspectives. We have 40 to 50 people in a class, and so obviously it's very diverse in what is important to people. Today, I just thought I would read through some of mine, and just hopefully this inspires you. And I would challenge you all listening in that if you want to be a leader, are a leader, or find yourself leading of any capacity, whether it's in your family, friends, job, hobby, whatever, that you take the time after this to literally write down, type it out, write down your own leadership principles. What is important to you? What do you want to be known by? So if someone works with you, they know this is something that's important to this leader, is this thing, this principle, this thought. And then let it be those things that can be something you strive towards. So I came up with a lot more than most people do, and not because I'm anything except for, I just had a lot of thoughts and I loved what other people said and kind of changed it for my own thing. And I didn't want to, once I get into a flow of inspiration, I don't want to stop it. So I just wrote down as much stuff as I could. So I just wanted to share with you a couple of them. So the first one, and these are no particular order, so I don't have these in order of importance or anything. These are just totally random, so bear with me for a second. First one I thought of was welcome any and all feedback because it is just that, feedback. Do not get emotional about it. I remember one of my mentors talked about how everything around us is just data. Everything we see is data. It's just information coming towards us, and we are the ones that put judgment or value, or we're the ones that put some sort of formulation of ideas around the data that we receive. In other words, so like if someone got fired from their job, not everyone responds to that in the same way because it's data, it's information. You can take that meaning that there's something wrong with you. You can take that as in there's something wrong with the company. You can take that as just that, you just lost your job and it's time for something else. But especially as a leader, I always want to be in a place where I can accept and receive feedback and not just say, oh, it's just feedback, it doesn't matter, but literally taking at it and just saying, okay, I'm not going to take this personal. I'm not going to get emotional about it. I'm just going to accept the feedback. I don't necessarily have to change anything, but I do need to at least listen and see if it's something I do need to change or if I don't need to change it. Because sometimes feedback is coming from the other person in a spot where they're hurt or something else and they're not quite clear. And even sometimes they have good feedback. It just may not be the right time or place to use that feedback. So it all comes down to you of what you want to change or not. But again, feedback of any kind is just that, just feedback. Don't get emotional about it. Next one is the principle I was focusing on was ask questions instead of giving advice or answers. So there's two things behind this. So when I was younger, I remember one time my sister had a bad day, came home, and so she was telling me about her bad day, and I jumped in and saying, well, you could do this. I went to solving problem mode, fixing as we guys do sometimes. And she said, you know what, sometimes I just want you to shut up and listen. Not to give me any advice, I just want you to listen. I was like, okay. And then secondly, when I went through my life coaching, one of the many life coaching programs I've been through, they usually focus on, you don't want to give someone the answer. You want to pull it out of them by asking the right questions. And even in sales, the best type of salesman is one that asks the right questions to find what they need to find to help someone buy the right product or service or whatever they're looking for. So again, my goal, my principle is to ask more questions instead of giving the advice and just jumping right in. Next from there is that make sure people know that I care, that I listen, and I understand them. This is just going back to, again, my sister. I want to make sure when someone comes to me with an issue as a leader, I want to make sure they know that I understand and I listen and I do care. And I want to make sure that they're heard and we can shift whatever it is need to be shifting for them. Next from there, it comes from some of the book we read before about a leadership challenge, and that is be willing to push the status quo. Be the challenger of the process to make things better. I personally love thinking outside the box and thinking of different ways to do most things. And I just want to make sure it's a principle that I always have that in mind, saying, is there a better way to do this? Can I do this in a faster, better, more qualified way? And being open to maybe the things that I'm currently doing could be done better, and that someone else on my team, whoever that is, from the front line to above me, could give me a better way to do it. So it's just that goes back to the feedback thing of being willing to look for the best feedback and push the status quo. Next from there is integrity is vital. If I say I will do something, I will. If I say I won't do something, then I won't. Hold my own personal boundaries, and I only say yes if I can actually commit, follow through, and if it makes me feel excited. I know it's kind of long, but integrity to me is a big deal as far as doing what you say you're going to do. And just being true to your word, being true to what you say you're going to do. And not only that, but I find in my life that I say yes way too fast to projects. Like, I don't have a lot of bad things come into my life saying, hey, do you want to do this bad thing? It's usually that there's so many good things and I have to decide which one's the best. So it's being willing to look at saying which one's the one that's going to make me most excited and not just saying yes to appease somebody else or to whatever. Next is be willing to give and receive straight talk. One of my partners in crime in the MBA program, he brought up a Brené Brown quote, which is the kindest thing to people is to be honest, not to sugarcoat things. That's the kindest thing, is to be as honest and blunt as possible. So I agree with that. I love straight talk. I'd rather have someone tell me up front what's going on, what their thoughts are, and what's happening, instead of sugarcoating or beating around the bush. I as well want to be able to give that feedback saying, listen, this behavior of yours is unacceptable. We got to change it. But do it in a way that's loving and kind, but also very clear so it's not confusing of what's going on. This also comes from the class, which is remember to balance intuition with proper data and information, which again, we've talked about that before. I think it was last week or the week before, but just being willing to balance both because I think they're both important. Next is be the person who pushes your own limits so you can assist others to do the same on their own. Something that drives me is being able to, or at least attempting to do things that other people say that can't be done. A quick example from my own life was a few years ago, I was in charge of a youth group a singles youth group up in Idaho. 10 plus years ago. And I was in charge of doing this yearly regional event. And in the past, they said, we barely get 100 people to come out to these events. And I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to do more. And they asked me what my goal was. And I said, I want at least 500 people. My goal is to reach 1,000. And they said, we've never done that. I'm like, I know, that's why we're going to do it. So I can show you that it can be done. The leadership has said it could be done. Everyone around me said it couldn't be done. My team even thought I was crazy. But what we did is we created this huge mud event. So we did mud volleyball and mud wrestling and mud ping pong and mud whatever. We had all these crazy events. And put it out there to the community, got it on the news. We did all this stuff they have never done before. And we had this turnout of like 1,500 to 2,000 people. It was insane, way bigger than I thought it was. And people still call and ask me, saying, hey, when are we going to do that event again? Even 10 years ago. They're like, remember that event? We should do that again. So I love being able to do things that pushes people limits and mindsets and seeing what is possible. Being able to see what is possible is being able to dream above that and push beyond what you think can be done. Next principle is be the leader that lifts others around me always and make them feel good. Now, I don't believe I have the power or ability to make people feel anything because technically we don't have that ability. But I can influence someone to feel good based on how I treat them, how I speak to them, pointing out the things they do well. Like my point here is not to control anybody, but more so to be the leader that is making sure people around me feel good, feel uplifted, feel valued, and feel like they're contributing, but also that I hold them to a higher standard so they want excellence because I push them towards it. I love leaders that do that for me, and I just want to do that for other people. This goes into the next one, which is excellence is the goal, nothing less, but to remember that be okay with failure or finding ways that do not work, as Mr. Edison said. So I do believe in being excellent, striving for excellence, and doing as best as you can. In order to get there, though, I think you have to be okay with failing or not getting it right. Because in order to find the excellence, you got to be able to knock around in the dark sometimes and find the path. And once you get on it, you can find that excellence. But have to be willing and patient with people as they find their own excellence. Next is vision is what wins battles. Always have a vision that people can hang on to and change how they see the world and how they behave. So this also comes from the book, which is just about a vision is the one that swings people into battle. Having a vision or a mission or some sort of grandiose feeling is what propels men in the past to go to and win battles. It wasn't them being ordered in by some sort of authority. It was because someone inspired them to do something bigger than themselves. Next is remember perspective. Remember when you slept on a dirt floor and be grateful for what is, good or bad. So for me, I served a Christian mission for a couple of years on the Navajo Reservation, and there were several times where I had the blessing of sleeping on a dirt floor and very cold, not really having a blanket. The only pillow I had was my arms. And I remember waking up the next morning thinking to myself of how I grew up in a nice bed, warm bed, with food waiting for me, and in this circumstance, I didn't have any of that, and this is how some people were living all the time. So I always want to remember perspective where I came from and give respect to that so that I can respect others and so that I never treat anyone less than just because they might be the janitor or something else. Always remember perspective. Next and last is love the crap out of people in word, thought, and deed. I remember once when I was younger, I struggled with school stuff. I went when my uncle killed himself, and then a little while after that, my grandparents both died within 2 weeks of each other. I had a really, really hard time, and so I did homeschool for about a year in 7th grade. I struggled socially, academically. I had a hard time. I just was not dealing well with the deaths of family members that I was close to. And when I went back, I was so nervous to go back to 8th grade and go into the middle school. And I was thinking to myself, what am I going to do? And my sweet angel mama told me, she just said, you just love the crap out of people. You look at them, the bullies, the good guys, the nerds, the band people, the football people, the girls, whoever. And in your mind, all you say is, I love you. Not in like a creepy way or not in a inappropriate way, but just saying from my soul to your soul, from my humanity to your humanity, I am choosing to love you. Even if you're a jerk, even if you're rude, even if you never talk to me, I'm choosing to love you. And doing that for the next year or two, by the time I was in my sophomore year, I knew everybody in my class. And by my senior year, I felt like I was decent friends with most people because I was willing to love those. And we're talking from the most popular girl and guy in school to the least popular person to the less mentally disadvantaged to everybody. I knew them. And I was grateful for them, and I didn't feel intimidated. It's interesting that when you love people, you don't fear them. You're not scared of them. You want to just love them. And I find that even if you just think in your mind, I love you, because I know in the business world, lovey-dovey stuff doesn't really work very well. At least they say it doesn't, but yet we're humans. We connect. We want to connect. We want to be valued. We want to be seen. And we want to be working with people that we connect with, or at least can respect us and believe in us and let us do our work in a way, our passion that can improve the world in the ways that we choose to. So as a challenge, if you have a challenge with anybody in your life, just say in your mind over and over every time you see them, especially those people that you can't stand or ones that bug you, just say in your mind, I love you. 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 And that kind of goes into another book, which I'll probably talk about another time. But just, again, be willing to love the crap out of people. So to summarize, and read these all real quick one more time. Welcome any and all feedback because it's just that, feedback. Ask questions instead of giving advice. Make sure people know that I care, listen, understand. Be willing to push the status quo or be the challenger of the process to make things better. Integrity is vital. If I say I will do something, I will. If I say I won't, I won't. Hold my boundaries and only say yes when I can actually commit and if it makes me feel excited. Give and receive straight talk. Remember to balance intuition with proper information. Be the person who pushes my own limits so that I can assist others to do the same. I want to show that the impossible is possible with my efforts and the team's. Be the leader that lifts others around me and make them feel good. If it does not, I forgot one. It does not make my soul want to rock out and enjoy life. Don't do it. Be open to others' ideas and create the environment where ideas can be developed. Excellence is the goal, nothing less, but remember to be okay with failure and finding ways that do not work. Vision is what matters, or vision is what wins battles. Always have a vision that people can hang on to and change how they see the world and how they behave. Remember perspective. Remember that when you slept on a dirt floor and be grateful for what is, good or bad. And lastly, love the crap out of people in thought, word, and deed. My challenge to you is whatever you decide to do is to make your own leadership principles. What are the principles that you will guide or have in your life to guide you to be the best person you can? Know what's important to you. Write it down. Stick it in front of your office or your mirror or something and look at those daily. Remind yourself who you are and what you stand for. Thank you so much for joining in once again. This is Unleash Greatness. I am Jonathan Mitchell. Go to unleashg.com for any more from us. And when I say us, I mean me and my team. And we'll talk soon. Thanks so much.